One. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Be More Dog Live with special guest Nick Thompson. Nick, thank you for joining me today. It's a pleasure to have you on.
It's a pleasure.
So today, what we're going to be...
Thanks very much.
Yeah, it's great to have you here, Nick. Thank you. So what we want to be talking about today is and the gut and raw feeding. And we'll do the usual break about halfway through where we'll have a competition.
Great.
And viewers will be taking your questions. So Nick will be answering your questions. So as usual, just type your questions in the comments box and I'll read them out. And if you can try to keep them about diet and feeding and the gut and raw and kibble and that kind of thing, because that's what we're focusing on today, please. And you're very lucky to have Nick. So Nick, thanks again.
Pleasure.
So Nick, do you want to just tell us a little bit about, what you do and why you believe we should feed raw?
What do? I run a practice in Corsham in England called Holistic Vet. The website is holisticvet.co.uk. And you can also follow the practice on my Instagram, which is Holistic Vet UK, the @Holistic Vet UK. So jump on there if you fancy. And we do homeopathy, acupuncture, nutrition, and herbal medicine. But over the last decade, we're doing more and more and more raw food, and that's taking up probably 80% of my time at the moment. When I'm not consulting, I'm blogging and Instagramming to promote raw food. And the reason that I'm so keen on raw food is that it is well, the primary reason is that I just see amazing results with dogs every day, and people feed back to me with their results. Some dogs they've been say itchy all their lives. They change food and now they're not itchy. They've been squitty all their lives and they change the diet and now they're having perfect poos. It's probably the most the profoundest intervention that I have come across in veterinary medicine, and so I'm doing absolutely everything in my care to promote the responsible raw, promoting and teaching people because it's actually quite easy, but promoting raw food feeding.
I think it's incredible. And I've got to say, when I came across you and when I came across your outlook on raw, I found it quite surprising because my experience of vets is that most of them just advise not to feed raw at all.
Yeah.
So it's really amazing that you're pushing this because it's all about the welfare of the dogs. So we're having some questions come through. So please, people, please just type your questions and I'm going to start reading them out, Nick. So our first question is from Karen Riding. Hello, Karen. She says, hi, we have a standard Schnauzer has had pancreatitis. We would consider a raw diet, but want to understand how it would work in relation to managing Betsy's condition. Thank you.
Okay, it's really quite a simple one. So thank you, Karen, for starting us off on an easy question. The key when you first start treating, so the first thing to treat with pancreatitis is to make sure that the dog is hydrated. I'm talking about acute pancreatitis. Make sure the dog is hydrated and they've got a painkiller on board. After that, really, the only thing that from a conventional point of view is to feed a low-fat diet. And you can feed a low-fat diet using a raw food. You just speak to your supplier and find a low-fat food, and that will usually do the trick. What I do in addition to that is I will use bone broth to help to heal the gut and to promote liquid that they will take on board liquids, and also digestive enzymes to kind of give the pancreas a bit of a holiday, because it's inflamed and sore. If we can just reduce the work it needs to do, for a few months, then that's usually a good thing. If you've had no attacks of pancreatitis after about 3 to 6 months, you can gradually move towards a more normal diet. I think that a raw food diet is better for dogs who are prone to pancreatitis than kibble, because even a low-fat kibble, because there is some work to suggest by a guy called Dr. Mark Roberts, among others, that you have more blood triglycerides, i.e. fats, blood fats, when you're on a kibble than when you're on a raw food diet. Even a quite a high fat raw food diet, you have lower blood triglycerides. And we know that pancreatitis, one of the triggers is raised blood triglycerides.
That's really interesting.
Isn't it? It's the
Karen,
opposite
it
of what
looks
you
like you
think.
can
Yeah,
start.
it's the opposite of what you think, because you think,
Yeah.
oh, a low
So
fat
Karen,
kibble, that's going to be really good. But actually, even a low fat kibble would give you greater blood triglycerides than a medium fat raw food, and it's all to do with insulin.
okay.
Yeah,
Karen, I hope that helps you.
yeah, I hope so.
It sounds like you can give it a go. Thank you, Nick. So next question from Debbie Williams. Hi, kind of feeding, but my question is around dogs eating farm and horse manure when out. Okay, Debbie, I want to try and keep to sort of a raw diet question. So if we've got time at the end, I might come back to that question, Debbie, if that's okay. Claire Williams. Hi, Claire. When feeding peanut butter, how much is the phytic acid blocking essential nutrients being absorbed? And does the lectin protein cause severe inflammation? Or is it still okay to feed as a treat?
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts, Nick?
Okay. So Debbie Williams first, because there's two completely different. They're working in tandem, the two Williams sisters there. But let's take them separately. So, dogs eating horse manure when out, not a problem. Yes, if you've got a collie or any breed that has the gene, then you need to be very careful. However, I've never seen it, because you've got to remember there's quite a big dilution factor from ivermectin going into the horse this end and it coming out the other end. So I've never seen a collie having problems eating horse poo, because you've got to eat quite a lot in order to cause the problem. However, what can you do? I mean, you can't, unless you're the one in control of the horses, and the dogs have only got access to that horse poo. You're just going to have to cross your fingers. I think that it's not going to be a problem, but I have never seen it. Okay, and I get a lot of feedback from a lot of people every single day, so that's not a problem I've ever seen. I think that dogs eating horse poo and rabbit poo and sheep poo and things like that is very good, because it's very probiotic. I think it's a very good thing. There is zero risk of worms, because it's different worm burden, so that's not an issue either. So all in all, Debbie, I'd say dogs eating horse poo is great. Yeah, on they go. It's good, really good. She says, will it be in the poop of farm animals, or is it passed via kidneys? It will be a bit of both. I think I couldn't tell you the biochemistry. I can't remember the biochemistry. I think it will be in the poop, but it may be in a bit in the urine. But the fact of the matter is, never had a problem. Okay, that's all I can say, really. So Claire, don't feed peanut butter. I mean, it just, as you say, it's to do the lectins. There is some work by some authors that say that peanuts and those in the same group are not good for humans. They will cause leaky gut problems. So I just say, why feed peanut butter? Just because the dog likes it doesn't mean that you should feed it. I think the best treats are 100% meat treats, where when you look on the back of the pack, it just says, sprats 100%, dried sprats, or beef 100%. That's it. Nothing else. No glycerin, no additives, no colouring, no nothing. Forget bonios, forget schmackos, forget all, bacon strips and all that kind of rubbish. just chuck it out the window. I'd get some good old-fashioned, either dehydrated or freeze-dried meat, and just forget everything else. There's no need for it, really. There's just no need for it at all. So I'd say, I'm afraid, just chuck out the peanut butter, and feed. You've got a carnivore in front of you, and if you had one treat, it would be little dried sprats, because then you get the skin, you get the omega-3s, you get the brain material, you get the neurological material. They are superfood, and dogs love them. Yeah, and second to that would be tripe, dried tripe, because dogs go absolutely nuts for dried tripe. Yeah, either lamb tripe or beef tripe. So yeah, lots of options. Kill the peanut butter, I would suggest, Claire.
Yeah. And the tripe is nice and stinky, isn't it? Which they love.
Totally. They do love it. I mean, it can make a mess of your pockets, but it's a small price to pay, really.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Next question from Rachel. Do you think raw food should include vegetables, or just 80-10-10 organ and bone?
Yeah, good question. When I do Bee Lives, there's a little button next to that question there, Tricia. If you okay, press on it, the question will come up, so that everyone can see it. There you go, and we can say hello to Rachel. Hello, Rachel. Okay, so I do think that I do put in some raw veg, and I'm going to tell you why and tell you how. So the how is about 10 to 20% of blended green vegetables, whatever's in season. So kale, spring greens, broccoli, what have you. Just make sure there's a variety each week, and I would, so I would get an 80-10-10 type mix where you have got bone and you have got viscera and you have got muscle tissue, and I would add 10 to 20% of green vegetables. And I go into this in some detail. I've done a video. If you go to Vimeo and you put in raw feeding the basics, you'll find my video, and I'll go into quite a lot of detail there. But that's basically what we would do. Now, why would we do that? The answer is because dogs are not obligate carnivores. Cats are obligate carnivores. Now, let's just contrast the difference between just the behavior of cats and the behavior of dogs. Dogs eat other species poo, okay? And if it's a herbivore, it's stuffed with grassy material. They will eat their own feces. Whereas cats, I've never really, apart from extreme situations, I've never routinely heard of cats eating either other species poo or other cats' poo. So that, for me, differentiates them. Also, they don't eat, cats do not eat kind of berries in the autumn, and they don't generally, I have seen cats grazing a little bit of grass, but most dogs graze a little bit of grass here and there every day, and that's different from dogs. And dogs will often take larger prey, which has large volumes of soupy, sort of grassy material. If it's a herbivore, so if it's a goat or a sheep or an antelope or something like that, it's just going to be stuffed with green stuff. So as they guttle about inside the animal, trying to get at the liver and the intestine and what have you, they are going to have lots of grassy material everywhere. So I think that there would be a constant low-level input of green material. I would also throw a few berries in there, because berries are very, very rich. So dark, not too sweet berries is a good idea. But to answer very simply, yes to vegetables and some berries, and adding that to an 80-10-10 type mix.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Next question from Margaret Davies. Hi, Margaret. My month-old Doberman is so hard to control on the lead. Okay, so we've got a behavioural question here, Margaret. I'll answer that on the next live session that I do, but thanks for the question anyway. So next question from Sally Parsons. Hi, Sally. Raw-fed Jack Russell developed sudden seasonal allergies 3 years ago. She starts around end of February, start of March, and appears environmental triggers of sore eyes, hot spots, extremely itchy, major hair loss, broken skin, and major yeast overload. We stopped some protein sources that increase the issue, use bone broth, ACV. What more can I do to treat her from the inside out?
Okay, stop the ACV. That's the number one thing, because ACV is a fermented product and that can promote histamine. So that would be the first thing. So this kind of gives us an opportunity to talk about what makes dogs itch, which I think is a really, really important topic. And I should do an extended video like my raw feeding the basics. I need to do one on itch because it's a big problem. 10 to 20% of dogs in the UK have some degree of itch at some point in the year. So it's a real big one. So let me take you through my thoughts on what makes dogs itch. There are 3 major things that make dogs itch. Number 1 is parasites. Yeah, so we're talking fleas and mange, and you can talk to your vet in order to make sure that those are eliminated from the picture of an itchy dog. Number 2 is allergies, and number 3 is infection. So let's just have a look at allergies. And within allergies, there are 3 main allergies. You've also got contact allergies, but that's pretty obvious because it means you get an itchy spot exactly where the new buckle of the new collar is, and you can put 2 and 2 together. So I'm going to ignore that for now. So we've got 3 allergic type, sensitivity type issues, and this is probably what's happening here. As you say, Sally, it's seasonal. So the only thing that's seasonal is pollen. So the allergies, there are internal allergens. So we've got house dust mite, molds, things like that. External allergens, which is grass or tree pollen, and we've got food. Okay, and so you're right. Let me come back to that. But those are those 3. So the third so we've got parasites, allergies, and infection is the third category of what makes dogs itch is infection. If you've got allergies and your skin is a little bit hot and a little bit wet and you're damaging your skin a little bit from itching, that can push you into an infection type problem. And that can be bacteria, can be yeast, can be fungi. Okay, so bacteria, that's usually staphylococcal dermatitis. These are the little rings that you get that can then turn blackish. The yeast infection is called malassezia, and that is it's where the skin begins, or the dog begins, or the ears begin to smell of old socks. Yeah, it's got a musky, and the skin can look a bit kind of grey and like a mild flake over the top. That is a yeast malassezia, and that happens again secondary to allergies. And the third thing that can make you itch is fungus, which is a ringworm. Okay, ringworm is really mildly itchy, and what you normally see is you see these bald spots that just get bigger and bigger and bigger. They're not that itchy, but they antibiotics make no difference. The only thing would be a localized. What we tend to do is use a localized, like a Canesten type, miconazole, ketoconazole type preparation. So that's how we do those. So there you go. So we've got parasites, we've got allergies, and we've got infection. So in this situation, you've said that you have. So it starts in a certain time of day. So it's almost certainly a pollen, and so you have changed the proteins. Okay, because it is possible that you've got some indoor allergens, you've got some outdoor allergens, and some food allergens. Okay, so it might be that you feed, let's say the dog gets a bit itchy when you feed chicken. You eliminate the chicken, but the dog is still itchy because they're allergic to oak or ash or Timothy grass or something like that. You see, so that's why it's kind of can be a bit difficult. I would suggest, because the dog is looks like it's quite young, I would suggest talk to your vet about getting a blood test so that they can identify exactly what the dog is allergic to. If you catch them under the age of 4 years old, you can give what they call hyposensitization vaccination, which is a series of jabs to try and kind of overwhelm the immune response to dampen it down. 45% of dogs will respond to that. That means 55% of won't. But after you get over the age of about 4 years old, you've lost that as an opportunity. I will often send people to get blood tests with their vets to identify which outdoor allergens, which indoor allergens might be causing a problem. Because sometimes it's just a question of, say, right, dog can't sleep on the bed anymore, and dog is much, much better. That combined with no more chicken, that it just gives you an extra knowledge is power. The more you know about what makes the dog itch, the more you are in control. Your vets or Gene Dodge will offer you a test for food allergy testing, but I think it's generally agreed that they're not as reliable as the indoor-outdoor allergens testing. Those are really very reliable, but food is not as reliable, and you're going to have to do food trials anyway. So there you go, Sally. I hope that's of some use to you. I would suggest get a diagnosis, get that blood test done would be your first thing to do.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
Okay.
Next question's from Tatiana. Hi, Tatiana. We've got a puppy, 10 weeks old. If we want to feed her raw, how would you advise to do the transition from kibble? And is there a list of foods that can be fed raw? So I think this is a really good question, because a lot of people are not sure about what age they can put their dog on raw and how do they move from kibble to raw.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's a good question, Tatiana. So we can, and a lot of people will be thinking this. So I put dogs onto raw food at about 3 weeks of age. Okay, that's when I start them. They wean basically onto those. But if your dog has been weaned onto kibble, unfortunately, it is possible to wean them onto raw really very quickly. Our little dog she's 18 months now, and she was raised on kibble. She arrived here, and within 20 minutes she was eating raw food, and she's never had kibble ever since that time. So you can do cold turkey. You can just say, right, there's your raw food, and off you go. If because you don't know the pup very well, it's impossible to say, is that going to be a good one or not? So what some people do is they'll take 4 days over it. On the first day you'll do a quarter raw, 3/4 kibble. On the second day you'll do half and half. Third day 3/4 raw, and then on the fourth day you'll do fully over. So that's just a 4-day transition, and that I think that allows everybody to get their heads around the whole concept. Are there any foods that you can't feed? Not really. I would suggest there are about a dozen good companies who will be able to advise you. I would suggest you don't do DIY. If you watch the video, my raw food feeding the basics, that will guide you with all this stuff. But basically it says when you first start to feed raw, just as when you first started to drive a car, get some help, okay? And only even begin to think about DIY when you've cut your teeth on a few companies, frozen raw food offering, and most of the good raw food companies will be able to advise you on what they've got, which would be suitable for puppies. I don't know of anything that you can't really give to puppies, frankly.
What about pork? Because I've heard mixed things about feeding pork, and my raw foods stopped selling pork, and I'm not quite sure why. There's some reason why.
Yeah, no. It used to be in the old days. Pork. There was a worry that pork would give worms to a dog, which can then give worm problems to humans. And nowadays, that doesn't seem to be a problem. There are a number of raw food producers who offer pork. So pork, yes, there's nothing really that you can't feed a puppy that you can't feed a mature dog. If you think of it, throughout history, puppies just ate what everybody else ate. So this idea of children's food and adults food, or puppy food and adult food, I think is a bit of a marketing ploy, really. Yeah. So you just need to make sure with your puppies that they get plenty of access to bony and cartilaginous material. So things like chicken wings, turkey necks, duck necks, turkey carcasses, duck carcasses. Fabulous. That will do them really, really well.
And Nick, the Vimeo video that you mentioned, if anyone's interested in that, I've got the link to that on the event,
great.
but I'll share it again afterwards. So if anyone wants to download that, they can. Okay, thanks for that.
Joy,
Nick,
it's a tenner. It's a tenner, but you get 10 short, concise, action-packed lessons. And so I think I've deliberately underpriced it so that it's accessible to everybody. Yeah, it's the price of a paperback, essentially, and a lot easier to digest because you'll be done in an hour and a half. Yeah, so it's 10 lessons, 10 minutes each, about an hour and 40, and you're done.
Tatiana, I think that would be quite good for you, actually. Okay, next question's from Lisa. Do you know if there's any connection between feeding raw and IVDD? Nick, I don't know what that is, so I need you to explain, please.
Leave it to me.
Does raw feeding increase the chances of being struck by this awful disease?
Great. Okay, Lisa, great question. IVDD, intervertebral degenerative or disc disease, is essentially it. So this is a disease that is seen quite a lot in miniature Dachshunds, Frenchies, but any dog can get it. Basically, what happens is, I always think of your vertebrae as a bit like a traffic jam of minis, and each mini represents your vertebra. Yeah. In between those minis are the minis' bumpers to stop them scratching their paintwork. The bumpers are the discs. When people, I've popped a disc. It's where the disc between the two vertebrae. Hang on, let me get in the bit. Yeah, so you've got a vertebra there, and you've got a vertebra there, and you've got the disc, which is just kind of like a buffer between the two, and that's when that either degenerates or pops. That's intervertebral disc disease. I don't think. So what was the question? Was, do you think there's any connection? No, I absolutely don't think that there's a link between raw and intervertebral disc disease. I haven't heard that at all. On the contrary, because in a good varied raw food diet, there is an excess of all nutrients, including cartilage. I think that the body is able to pick up the building blocks of bone and cartilage and connective tissue much more readily, and therefore my experience over 25 years is that just everything is healthier. The skin is healthier, the eyes are healthier, the ears are healthier, the poos are healthier, the gut is healthier, you name it, everything is healthier. And therefore I can't think that the discs, the intervertebral discs, are going to be not healthier. And the other thing is, and this happens with people, is if as with most people, you don't drink enough water, then the chances are you're going to be slightly dehydrated, and that makes a big difference to intervertebral disc disease, because basically these things, they're like a bit like fruit pastels. Yeah, they're kind of tough on the outside and then squidgy on the inside. You know what I mean? And they need to be well hydrated in order to work properly. If they're a bit kind of dehydrated, they're much more likely to be damaged. And my experience is that dogs on kibble, which is dry, can sometimes not hydrate themselves as well as a raw fed dog who takes in a lot of moisture through the food, which is as nature intended. And the reason that we know that that's the case is because most of the time when you take a dog from kibble and you put them onto raw, they drink less. Yeah, that means that they're taking more. They're taking fluid from the food. Okay, where as opposed to, oh, here's your kibble. Do you fancy a drink or not? Oh, I can't be asked to go to the water bowl just now, even though I'm a bit thirsty. And then I get used to being a bit thirsty, but it's just the way I am. So I would suggest that if we did a big study, that's the only way to tell for sure. But I think that the raw fed dog will come out with most health parameters better than the kibble fed dog. In fact, Anna Heim Bjorkman at Dog Risk, which is a kind of it's a research group at Helsinki University. She's basically the leading researcher into raw food. She has done some work comparing the kind of metabolic processes within a kibble dog and a raw fed dog, and the raw fed dog just bats the kibble dog out of the park. There is no comparison. They're infinitely more. They've got better antioxidant profiles. They've got better metabolic profiles. Just all the parameters are a lot better. Indicators of immunity. All these things are better in the raw fed dog. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. That's a really good answer. Thank you, Nick.
Okay.
I'm just going to pause the questions briefly to run my little competition.
Okay. So, can I go and get a glass of water?
Yeah, please do. Please do. We'll see you in a minute.
2 seconds.
Okay, so viewers, I think you know the format now. I'm going to show you a photograph of a dog, and I need you to tell me the breed of the dog. And we've got prizes today, so I'm giving away an hour's consultation with myself. And Bubbles Pet Care in Ongar have kindly donated some raw food bundles. So we've got goodie bags full of raw food from True Instinct, treats and raw food. So we've got 3 of these goodie bags to give away. So thank you very much to Bubbles Pet Care in Ongar. So I need the full proper name of this breed of dog, please. And there's 3 words in it just to help you out. So what breed of dog is this? You can see that. And I need the full name, please. The full name of that breed of dog. And what I'll do is I'll pick the winner out later on once I've gone through the list. And I've worked out who's answered the question first. All right, Nick, thank you for that. So Debbie Williams says, that's great. Thank you. Next question is from Hazel Moore. Hello, Hazel. She says, hi, I need some clarity on something. Mm-hmm. And I've just got to say, this is one of my clients. And I'm really happy because she's moved her dogs from kibble onto raw. So that's amazing. My vet told me of an issue with raw food. I can't remember what it was, but hoping you can put my mind at rest. Is it safe? What do I need to be careful of? I think this is quite a common worry. Also, I give my dogs Reiki every day. Is that good, or should I only do it when necessary? Thank you.
Yeah, lots of nice points there. Okay, so I find that most vets don't know much about raw food. They don't have any experience, and they do have the kibble manufacturers whispering in their ear to say raw is wrong, raw is wrong. Okay, because they're losing market share every year. They're losing market share to raw food companies. Okay, so and I'm happy to, if there are any vets watching, I'm happy to talk to you. It's there is a suspicion within the profession about raw food, but the counter to that is the Raw Feeding Veterinary Society, rfvs.info. And by the way, Hazel, I'm going to tell you about this. You might be interested. We're having a conference on the 14th of November. It's a virtual conference, therefore everybody can turn up. and if you go to the rfvs.info, that you'll find links to the 2020 November virtual conference. It's cheap. It's about, I don't know, 100 quid for an entire day. There's about 12, 14 lectures. So lots and lots of really, really fantastic information there from speakers all around the world. Spain, the States. I'm going to be doing a talk on safety of food as well. So coming back to your question, so I think what you need to do is you need to speak to a vet who's au fait with raw food, and you need to say, please give me the pros and cons of kibble. Please give me the pros and cons of raw. Okay, because until you've had that conversation, it's a biased conversation, in my opinion. And everything on everything in the world has got pros and cons. Airline travel, taking the dog for a walk, everything has got pros and cons. Okay, so let's have a level playing field first of all, Hazel. I would suggest. Now, is it safe? Yes, it is safe, because, and how do I know it's safe? Because there are precious few reports of damage to either dog or owner, i.e. from infection, from raw food. Yes, there are bacteria within raw food, but you know what? There's bacteria within that chicken that you cook for the family on a Sunday. There is bacteria in the soil when you sit down on, halfway around the walk, you sit down on the hillside to enjoy the view. There's bacteria. So there's bacteria absolutely everywhere, and so that's the case there. So, but the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and what we find is that there are very, 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 very low numbers of where dogs or owners have been injured by the raw food. And if you compare it, because there's about 10 times as much kibble being fed as raw, so there's proportionality. There is something like, I think there's something like 163 times more incidents of problems with kibble than with raw. And if it was proportionate, it would be a 10-to-1 ratio. It's not. It's kind of 163-to-1. So because what happens with kibble is that you feed the kibble, and who washes their hands after they fed kibble to the dog? Most people know. Who washes their hands after they fed the dog raw? Answer: absolutely everyone. And so it's innately, people just take a bit more care because they have a bit of blood on their hands, or a bit of this, that, and the other on their hands. So I think people take more care innately. What do we need to be careful of? You need to be careful of your dog will start running twice as fast and may knock you over. Your dog, be careful of the grin on your face when you pick up the poo, because it suddenly becomes really small, really pick upable, really firm, and people will think you're a mad woman grinning as you pick up the poo. Yeah, you want to be careful of that. Be careful of becoming a raw food bore like me, who can talk about raw food all day long. Apart from that, you haven't really got much to be worried about, I think. And don't believe me, just talk to anybody who feeds raw food. Yeah, I'm a fanatic, so don't believe me. Just talk to the average people on the street who are feeding raw food and say, is it the best thing you've ever done? And I guarantee they will say, yes, it is the most profound thing they've ever done for their dog. And if you said, I'll feed your dog with kibble for the rest of your life for free, they'd say, no, thank you. I'd rather pay for the raw. Okay. Yeah. I guarantee it. I have these conversations all the time. I do lectures to, dozens and dozens and dozens of people in the room, and everybody is unanimous. Yeah. And we can't all be barking mad, can we? Yeah. We see the results for ourselves. So I'd say, talk to Patricia, talk to people, be guided, talk to one of the raw food companies. If you just go into Google and put ditch the dry or something similar, you will find companies who are just more than happy to help you to improve the health of your dog. Yeah, that's what it's all about. It's as simple as that. Dogs are healthier on raw food. Poos are more pick upable on raw food. You know, it's like selling water in the desert. You know, is it a good idea? Well, yeah, I think so. You know, it is as basic as that, guys. There is no complexity. There is no side. There's no agenda. It's just I've I in the old days used to feed kibble and used to advise kibble. Then I saw the light, and there is no comparison. There is no comparison in the health of dogs fed raw and fed kibble.
Something I like to say to owners is the farts will go away, and also you'll notice a difference in the poo, as you say. And I think it's just an indication of the gut health, isn't it, when you see the difference in the poo? So,
totally. Yeah, get ready for a new dog. Yeah, seriously. And you think I'm, don't believe me. I'm a fanatic. Believe Tricia, because she's not trying to sell anything. I'm not even trying to sell anything. Just I'm trying to sell healthy dogs. That's it. I'm trying to sell health. That's it. That's the bottom line. Which is why this is just such a joyous job, because it's really simple, life transformatory, and dogs love it. You're feeding them food that they just love to eat. So there you go. Best job in the world, mine.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got a question from Jan Murphy. She says, I know this may be at the end, but if a dog has had poison and it has enlarged the heart, will the heart go back to normal? Nick, I don't know if you want to skip that question and go on to the next one.
Yeah, well, let's do it while we're here, because we can turn it into a food question. Okay. It's I don't know the details, but be prepared that it doesn't. It depends on the poison and what exactly happened. But the heart, when it changes shape, often will not. But I can't really say about that, to be honest. But be prepared that it won't, I think, Jan. What I would do, though, there are a couple of things that I would suggest are very good. I feed heart every day to dogs who've got heart problems. Sounds like something from Shakespeare, but in fact, it's a very wise thing to do, because heart is full of coenzyme. Heart, as in the dish, is full of coenzyme Q10, full of taurine, choline, all these things which are really necessary to keep the heart in your chest in good shape. So heart every day for breakfast or tea, whatever, and then raw food the other end of the day is a really good idea. And also hawthorn or heart tonics, even human heart tonics that are based on hawthorn, is a very, very good idea, because hawthorn helps with your circulation, but it's a massive antioxidant. And when hearts go out of shape, they don't work as well, and so they just as an old engine produces a lot more dirty exhaust fumes than a clean, super tuned engine. Same with the heart. There'll be more oxidization, more free radicals, which need mopping up with antioxidants. So lots of heart, lots of hawthorn, Crataegus is a good idea. Hope that helps, Jen.
Thank you. Next question is from Emily. Hello, Emily. She says, just wanted to say I followed the raw diet percentages recommended by Nick several years ago from my Jack Russell, who had liver issues, and it has made so much difference to his quality of life until he passed away a couple of months ago.
Oh, I'm sorry, really, Emily. Thank you for saying, though. I really appreciate it. It's nice to get that feedback. Yeah, really, really appreciate that. Yeah, you can do great things with raw food, but the most important thing for me is get your dog off kibble, ditch the dry, get them off kibble, and get them onto raw food, because prevention is better than cure. Yeah, so don't wait until they get ill to start thinking about changing the diet. Tomorrow morning is the day you should start thinking about ditching kibble, and starting on a raw food journey. It's really easy. Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, pick up the phone to one of the companies that you find on Google, and start the conversation. Everybody I have ever known who's gone into raw has been terrified for the first month. Okay. And they then turn into happy monsters because they're just so delighted with what they see. It's easy to do. Dogs love it, and dogs are healthier. And you can see even within 2 weeks, better poos, better skin, cleaner teeth. It's just it's like falling off a log. It really is super simple. So yeah, go for it.
I actually really enjoy getting my dog's dinner ready, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
enjoy picking a variety of food, and it taking a few minutes to get ready. I really like that. I find it
yeah,
really interesting. Knowing that I'm feeding my dog something great as well. Okay,
yeah.
so question from Debbie Williams. Hi, Debbie. She says, do you rate the ground green berry seed mixes like Smart Bath?
Let's have a look. Can you hear my children
So
charging
that's
about outside like mad things?
yeah,
Can you hear them?
that's all good. Yeah, but it's all good.
Okay.
It's all good.
Oh, okay. As long as you're happy with it. Okay. Bless you. Okay. Where? Let's have a look. Smart bath. Yeah, I like smart bath. Where's the question?
So I'll put it on the screen, Nick.
Oh yes. Oh, do you rate ground? Yes. So smart bath. Yes, we do like. However, they've only got one formula with smart bath. So yes, use it by all means, but don't use it exclusively. I would. And yes, it's a good formulation. Full stop. There's another company called Hedgerow Hounds who do a kind of seaweed and herb formula, and the beauty of them is that they change it every 3 months. Yeah, and they have a rotation. They have 4 different formulae, and they rotate those so that you are always giving a different formula each season. And I think really that's how nature has intended it. So one of the key concepts that I talk about in the video is variety. Okay, you have variety, I have variety. There are 8.7 million species on the planet. They all eat variety apart from cats and dogs. And dogs are now having, dogs over the age of 10 years old have a 50% chance of getting cancer. Is there a correlation there? I ask myself, So variety, fresh, natural, honest to goodness food. That's where it's at, really. So
Lovely.
I hope that answered. So variety of your supplements as well is a good idea.
Thank you, Nick. Question from Karen Merton. Hi, Karen. My Doberman currently has kibble with wet feeding, but she does have an extremely high prey drive and reactive to small furries, etc. Would raw feeding make her any worse, or will it in fact help her? Thanks in advance.
Yeah, Karen. Most dogs who go onto raw, I find, will have better energy, but will be kind of innately a bit calmer. Some dogs are like massively calmer because I had one dog called Ewan. He was an EBT, English Bull Terrier, and he used to do a lap of death around the kitchen after he'd finished his kibble. We moved him onto raw, and he stopped doing that. Yeah, he'd just go and contentedly go and settle in his bed. So with your Dobie, I think there's a possibility that you'll be able to knock off 1 or 2 percentage points of reactivity. It won't completely transform, and I don't think any food on the planet is going to change prey drive. I think that you've either got high prey drive or you've got low prey drive, and that's just the way you're made. However, I think dog would be happy. I think you would be happier feeding a raw food diet, and you might just take a wee bit of an edge off that skitsy. It's if you feed children loads of sugar, what happens? They sound like these children, except they don't get a lot of sugar. Yeah, imagine being my child. My son says I'm a sugar Nazi. Yeah, so the children go insane when you feed them loads of sugar and stuff like that, and that's what kibble, which is 30 to 60% carbohydrate, that's broken down into sugars. Yeah. So it's like it's you know, it's like yeah, it's like giving sugar to a child, essentially. So you can calm things down, but you don't change the nature of the child by giving them great food instead of junk food. So, Karen, I hope that
I think,
helps.
and just to say, I think some people worry about giving their dog bloody food, that it's going to make their dogs bloodthirsty, but it's just not true. It doesn't make them more wanting to
No,
kill animals at all,
no.
you know. So I
They're
don't think
smarter than that. We've got chickens, and well, here you go. Here, Prey Drive. We've got a little whippet. She's 18 months old, Bluebell. She's Gem most of the time, and she just puddles around the garden with the chickens. Yeah, and yet we feed her chicken periodically, so that's all cool. So I don't go with that. Don't go with that idea
okay.
of it'll make your dog more bloodthirsty. There is no evidence whatsoever for that. So we're all good, Karen. I would give it a go. Yeah, seriously, give it a go and let me know how she is in a week,
Okay.
in a month's time. Seriously, I challenge you to do that.
Thanks, Nick. I think we could probably take a couple more questions. So next one from Hayley Nye. She says, I was recently told maize in my Dobie's Ava large breed kibble could be contributing to his anxiety and reactivity on walks as it blocks serotonin. So I'm switching him across. Can you
Good.
recommend any foods or natural remedies that might help alleviate stress, be calming, improve mood? If there's
Yeah.
anything else to avoid. He's been in pain and on a restrictive rest and is neutered. So general advice for him then, please,
Yeah.
Nick.
Okay. Moving on to a raw food diet is the most important thing there, because that's going to make his help to normalize his microbiome, and we know that the microbiome and the brain are the very best of buddies. They talk to each other every picosecond of the day. So it's really important. In addition, you could give a probiotic. We use a probiotic called Fidospore, and that helps. To. It is clinically proven to help to eliminate. This is leaky gut. This is how your gut should look. Yeah, no leaks in it. So that can help a bit. If I was wanting to reduce reactivity, I would feed a raw food diet, and there's a lovely product that we use called Nutra Calm, and your vet might have it. You're welcome to drop me an email and we can get you some. And that's used as a calmer for travel or for firework night and things like that. Ideally, you wouldn't need to use it continually, but it has a very nice calming effect, which, especially as firework night is coming along, NutraCalm is a really serious contender. NutraCalm, there it is. Thank you. So I would go for that if I were you. That would be a good idea, and I'll stop waffling.
Thank you, Nick. And Hayley said, are there any foods that help with hormone balancing after neutering? I think that's a good question. Anything you can say, Nick?
Yeah. That's a good question, and also just to go up to Hayley's question again. Have a look at a thing called a serotonin diet. It's basically you separate the proteins and any carb that you give, greens for example, by 2 hours, and you add some B6, and that can really boost serotonin. So that kind of answers two of those questions to a certain extent. Are there any foods that help with hormone balancing? There are so many hormones. They all do such different things and have such different pathways. Really, I think the best thing for optimal hormone is a well-balanced raw food diet with variety. So if it was up to me, I would be feeding, chicken for a week, and then I'd be feeding beef for a week, and then I'd be feeding lamb for a week, and then turkey for a week, at least, maybe even 6 or 7. and rotate them like that. In addition, I'd be having seaweed for iodine, for thyroid function. I would be putting in omega-3 fish oil 1 month, and then flax oil the next month, and then back to fish oil the next month, and then alternating between those. Omega-3 fatty acids. Fatty acids are the building blocks of hormones, so those are very important. But otherwise, a good, well-balanced raw food diet with variety provides all the building blocks for optimal hormone balance, bearing in mind that your is it neutering. Okay, so it doesn't say whether it's a girl or a boy, but if you've been neutered, that's you've gone through more menopause overnight at the age of 12 months of age. So that is a massive shock to the body. In Scandinavia, by the way, neutering is considered to be a mutilation, and you are not allowed to neuter unless it's for therapeutic reasons, which is amazing. Yeah, that's another take on the whole neutering. But if your bitch or your dog is neutered, then feed a really good raw food diet, because a lot of dogs will put on weight after they've been neutered, and we find that a raw food diet is very useful in bringing the dog down to a more optimal weight. I'm not saying that there aren't raw-fed dogs out there who aren't overweight. That's because their owners are just a bit too enthusiastic on the feeding front. But the average raw-fed dog is in better shape than the average kibble-fed dog, in my experience.
Thank you, Nick. I think we'll take one more question from Rachel. I have heard some vets saying that DCM, which is dilated cardiomyopathy, I think, is caused by grain-free diets. Can you comment on this?
I can. They're wrong. It was put out as disinformation because there's a lot of stories, but it's wrong. Number one. Number two, it I think was to protect kibble sales, non-grain diet sales, basically, because the grain-free diets were selling so well. I think that was something to do with it. They've looked at all the populations of dogs feeding grain-free diets, and there's no correlation between the diseases that dogs on grain-free diets get and dogs feeding any other type of kibble get. So it was a red herring. It made the news all over the world for about 6 months. There was a lot discussed about it, but it's well and truly been put back to bed. The guy to read on that is a guy called Ryan, Ryan Yamka, Yamka, Ryan Yamka. He used to work for Hills, and he's now got his own. He's a board certified nutritionist, Ryan Yamka, and he explains that it's rubbish and really lays into the kibble companies. Yeah, and he is qualified to do that because he used to work for them. Yeah, he's a fully board certified nutritionist, and he's like with the kibble companies. So it makes for very interesting reading. Yeah, he's your man.
That's interesting. Thank you, Nick. We've got more questions, but we've run out of time. So, Nick, I just want to thank you so much, and giving up your time on a Sunday afternoon. And I know all the viewers and the people who watch us on Catch Up will be very grateful. Before we go, can you just give us links and any other information that you want to give us about if people want to reach you, if they want to make an appointment with you, how can they get in touch with you?
Fabulous. Thank you. So the website is holisticvet.co.uk. And if you want to just keep up with what I'm doing, maybe one of the easiest is I do a Facebook Live like this on a Wednesday called Jaw, as in talk, Jaw on Raw on Wednesday at 8 on the Holistic Vet Facebook page, Holistic Vet Limited Facebook page, called Jaw on Raw. And I talk to the great and the good in the raw food world, and we have half an hour of chat, a bit like this. And it's light, and I started it in COVID to keep everybody's morale up, and people want it, so we're continuing. And we might be going back into our second wave. So keep morale. It's really important that we stick together. We chivvy each other. We look after each other, and so that's my contribution to that effort. What else is there? There's the Raw Feeding Veterinary Society, rfvs.info. The conference is on the 14th of November. There is a Facebook page that anybody can join for the Raw Feeding Veterinary Society, and it's called Raw Feeding RFVS Community Page, I think. If you just look up RFVS within Facebook, then you've got all that information there. I'm doing a lot of writing for ProDog Raw at the moment, and so if you want to read some of my thoughts, then if you go over to their website, then lots of blogs going up on there. Talking of which, Heidi Masculine, who is the boss at ProDog Raw, is coming to talk to me on Wednesday at 8 p.m. So that should be great. She's a great lass. And we're going to be talking about customer service, and we're going to be talking about education, and we're going to be talking about why she started ProDog Raw and how she started it. And we're going to talk about her dogs. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. And you're really welcome to that. It's a freebie, so come along. Why wouldn't you?
Thank you. That's great. Nick, I'll put all this information out on the event. Bless if anyone wants to get the links, I'll link that up. Nick, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Patricia. Yeah, bless you. Keep up the good work. It's been great. Appreciate it. And sorry about the my cock up at 5 o'clock. It was all my fault, guys. All my fault.
No, not at all, Nick. It's been amazing. Have a lovely evening, and thanks again. Okay, goodbye, everyone.
Yeah. Pleasure. Thanks very much.
Okay, bye.